Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey, this is Casey Undercovers, and today we are going to do my September wrap-up, which includes my Magical Readathon wrap-up. This was my first year ever participating in the Magical Readathon at Willingham Academy, so I made a new character and joined right in. I will put her here on the screen. This is my character, Azaria Vigardra, and she is in her first year as a necromancer. Don't be intimidated or afraid if you don't know anything about the Magical Readathon. I'm still going to do my wrap-up as usual, just including my prompts from the Magical Readathon. The Magical Readathon isn't the only readathon or reading activity I was participating in September. I was also participating in the Buzzwordathon and Cover Challenge. It was also the final round for TBR Trails The Battle. So I kind of puzzled out everything, all of the prompts from everything I wanted to participate in, and tried to get as many overlapping prompts as possible for as few books as I possibly could. And my Willingham Academy syllabus did have me reading 8 books, so that was the minimum I was gonna pull from. For my first book, I read Dead to the World. This is the 4th book by Charlaine Harris in the Southern Vampire Mystery series. For the Magical Readathon, I read this for my Conjuration class, and the prompt was conjuring circles. Read a book with a circle on the cover. That big old moon there sure does fit a circle. For the Buzzwordathon cover challenge, I needed a book with foliage on the cover, and there is grass on the bottom. I googled it. Grass does mean foliage. And for the battle game, I needed a secondhand romance. I did thrift these original covers of these books off eBay. Dead to the World has been my favorite one in the Southern Vampire Mystery series so far. This book was just so much fun, and I knew it would be because it's also my favorite season of True Blood. In Dead to the World, we rejoin our main character, Sookie Stackhouse, as she's leaving work from Lattes on New Year's Eve. She's post-bill breakup and just trying to stay busy, but on her way home, she encounters Eric, who really isn't Eric. He's acting very strange, he doesn't know who she is, and to keep him safe, she takes him home. Eric has been cursed by a witch to forget his memories, and she is hunting him down. And for a nominal fee funded by the vampires and negotiated by Jason, Sookie does agree to keep this vulnerable Eric in her home. Meanwhile, Jason himself does go missing, and Sookie is out to find her brother throughout the book. With all the chaos going on surrounding the mystery of why Eric has lost his memories and where the hell is Jason, Sookie does find comfort in this new and gentle Eric. The Southern Vampire Mystery series is a little bite-sized snack for me. These books go right to my nostalgia every time. I absolutely love this book, and I rated Dead to the World 4.5 stars. Definitely my favorite of the series so far. Delightful trash. They're so much fun. Are they well written? Not really. Are they groundbreaking? Not really. Are they a lot of fun? Yes. Yes, they are. If you like spicy, fun vampire books, then you may enjoy the Southern Vampire Mystery series. I think these are a lot of fun. I am not into romance books usually, but when you add vampires, I am all in. And this book was extra special for me because Eric is my favorite character from the show, and this was just the best version of him. Highly recommend this series if you haven't tried it. The second book that I read in September is The Running Man by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman. I read this as a prompt for the Magical Readathon, which was my O in Restoration. Study making an unbroken focus tincture, read a book with a single POV. I also used The Running Man as my Buzzwordathon book. The buzzword was event, and The Running Man is actually a game show, and I googled it. It's an event. I stretched it, but it works. I grew up on the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger movie adaptation of this book, but nothing could be more different. Very little is similar between the book and the movie. Aside from having a character named Ben Richards who does compete in a game show called The Running Man, there's really no other similarities between the two. In dystopian America in the year 2025, Ben Richards watches the public broadcasting system that shows all kinds of game shows where the poor, downtrodden, and unhealthy can compete for money. This is a world where non-government sanctioned work is pretty non-existent, and if, like Ben Richards, you have been declared a hostile towards the government, then you may find yourself out of luck. Now, while Ben Richards is watching these shows, which is not his normal, his poor baby daughter is sick with the flu, and if they cannot get medicine for her, they will lose her. And this is what brings Ben Richards to his breaking point to join the line of desperate people standing outside of the game's network tower. In the beginning of this book, there is a really, really creepy scene where the doctors are examining all of the contestants to see if they're healthy or unhealthy enough to be in certain games. And the fact that he's undergoing all of this expensive medical examination while his baby daughter is dying of a simple flu is really hitting really close to home during this particular time we live in. Ben Richards is really a very angry character. He's unfavorable in the eyes of the government. He is lashing out because of the situation he finds himself in and the situation he was put in because of the work he did on behalf of the government. He is angry, he is antisocial, and this makes him a perfect candidate for the network's most popular game, The Running Man. Running Man is also the deadliest game the network offers, and thus far no one has survived. Now, what makes this game so much different from what I was expecting is that he is not released into an arena type environment, but rather to the world at large, where citizens are encouraged to report him, report leads, and they are given money in return. And he just has to survive for 30 days, in which he will be given a large reward. But even if he doesn't survive all 30 days, for a matter of time, he is paid per hour per day that he's able to survive. Or rather, his family will be, because presumably he will not survive. Once the game is on, the feeling of paranoia really does take hold of you. You do feel very suffocated and like you're being observed all the time, just like Ben is experiencing. What I really admired so much about this book was the anger that you feel coming off of the page from Ben Richards. It feels so real. Ben Richards is the everyman who was given really no options in life. There are no boots, there are no bootstraps, there's no way to pull yourself up in this society. You are just condemned. And he finds himself now offering his life to save his little girl. Now, with Stephen King, there always comes the gripe that I will always have probably with his writing, and that is his choice of language, the use of misogynistic anger towards women, the N-bombs being dropped. It feels so unnecessary and really detracts from my enjoyment of pretty much all of his books. I did rate The Running Man 4.25 stars. This book was really a page turner for me. I finished it in a day and a half. I could not put it down, and the chapters, which aren't really chapters, they're more of a countdown, really do fly by. I did predict the third act by the time it was developing, but that didn't detract from my enjoyment of the book at all. I would recommend The Running Man to dystopian fans. This book does hit really close to home, being that it takes place in the year 2025 and deals with a lot of issues that Americans do currently face. If you enjoy fast-paced stories and morally complex protagonists, then The Running Man might be something you also enjoy. I'm sorry if you can hear like scraping noises or pounding noises. There seems to be some kind of maintenance going on, but we shall proceed. The third book I read in September was Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. This is a classic paranormal horror story. So I did read Rosemary's Baby for my spells and incantations class for my ordinary level, and that was to cast the Charm of Luck. For this prompt, we were to roll a d6. I rolled a 3, and that was to read a book between 200 and 299 pages. And this particular copy of Rosemary's Baby, can you see, is 229 pages. In Rosemary's Baby, a young couple, the Woodhouses, move into a very sought-after building called the Bramford. Rosemary's close friend Hutch does warn them that there has been a string of incidents in this building over the years and does beg them to kindly back out of the lease, but of course this is Rosemary's dream home and that ain't happening. Soon after moving in, another horrible incident at the Bramford does occur. A girl that Rosemary has met has fallen to her death out of a window. And during this incident where everyone is kind of gathered around outside around the body, this is when Guy and Rosemary Woodhouse finally meet their elusive neighbor, the Castevets, who this young girl was staying with. Now, Rosemary has heard the Castevets talking through the walls, heard some really weird conversations, but being the ever-polite woman of the 1960s, she doesn't say anything. Rosemary is really like any other young bride of her time. She is freshly married, in a new home, and ready to start a family. However, her husband Guy is more reluctant to start a family as his acting career is in its early stages, and he really can't be bothered to slow down now. That is, before he meets the Castevets and starts hanging around them. After a few evenings spending time with Roman Castevet, Guy changes his mind and is ready for baby making. In come baby making night, Minnie Castevet brings the Woodhouses over her special chocolate mousse, even though Rosemary is like, there's some kind of strange aftertaste going on here. Guy's like, no, totally fine. Oh, honey, you don't want to be so ungrateful. Finish your dessert. Weird. But Rosemary doesn't actually finish her dessert, and although she does kind of pass out and Guy puts her to bed, she isn't fully unconscious when the next most horrifying thing ever happens. Guy goes through with the baby making with her, so she is led to believe, but she is also in a semi-sleepy state where she's seeing things that ought not be there. She is seeing a man in leather armor on top of her. She's covered in scratches, and all of her neighbors are surrounding her naked. Totally normal dream. A month or so later, Rosemary learns with joy that she is pregnant. And this pregnancy is incredibly hard on Rosemary. She gets very skinny, very sick, very hollow looking, very concerned. And the rest of the book follows Rosemary's pregnancy until the eventual birth of her child. I rated Rosemary's Baby 4.5 stars. I had a great time with this book. I thought it was very smart. I really enjoyed it. The ending in particular and the questions that it poses was great. Something that I thought was incredibly brilliant about the writing in this book is that the contrast of Rosemary's everyday mundane life and the situations that she finds herself in are so boldly contrasted, and it is very well executed in this book. Throughout this book, you are questioning whether Rosemary has lost her marbles. She's questioning that herself. Is there really some kind of plot against her? Is she just going through baby blues? Like, what is going on with Rosemary? That is the question all the way through to the last page. I would absolutely recommend this horror classic if you haven't already, although I will say with a grain of salt that it does have one of the most violating scenes I've ever read in my life. This book, however, isn't very scary, it's more suspenseful. This book is also a rather short book, under 250 pages, so if you need a quick read, this will do it for you for spooky season. Continuing on with my Q4 qualified in my spells and incantations class for the Magical Readathon, my prompt was to study current spell trends and to read a book released this year, and for that I read Elphie, A Wicked Childhood by Gregory Maguire. I also used this book for a prompt for the quest game, and that was to read a book that was on our 10 in 25 list that was also a fantasy. Elphie is a prequel to the Wicked series. This is about Elphaba's childhood, which in itself is a retelling of The Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz. Elphie is told in 4 episodic short stories that detail her life from age 4 to age 16. A 4-year-old child in the marsh, a 13-year-old on the verge of her teenage years, and concluding with a 16-year-old Elphaba entering Shiz University. These stories do follow a particular timeline in the Throp family when their father Frex is dragging them all around Quadling country, preaching the word of the unnamed god, and trying to seek absolution for the murder of the Quadling prophet Turtleheart. I would just give you a synopsis of each of the 4 stories in this book, but it really was not the point of the book. The themes of this book are really what hold it together, the themes of sisterly rivalry, the relationship between sisters, the way Elphaba relates to Nessa, and her role as Nessa's big sister. Shell is here as well, but he's not nearly as prominent as the girls are. Another theme that plays a major role in this story is Elphaba's independence and her growing into her own. Elphaba's really discovering who she is and what that means within and without her family, or more importantly, who she could be outside of her family. Throughout this story, we also see how Elphaba empathizes with animals, that is the capital A version of animals, the talking animals in Oz, versus everyone around her who really seems to have some sort of disdain for these animals. This is a very independent stance for a young Elphie and really the 2 feet that she finds herself standing on for the first time. Education also plays a large role in this story as it gives Elphaba the freedom that she is seeking. I rated Elphie 3.5 stars. Now, I've read about 6 of Gregory Maguire's books. They are usually more misses than hits for me, but I really appreciated this book. I really liked what it had to say and the context it gives to the greater story. Gregory Maguire's writing is usually very flowery and overly written in my opinion, and in this book I would also add that it is told through the haze of someone's memory. It did take me a while to settle into this writing style, but I did settle in. This prequel is not a book that I think you could read as a standalone. It is really written for those of us who have read this series, probably the entire series, but at least the first book, Wicked. If not, I don't think you could just pick this up as a standalone. A lot of the reviews I read about this book were very negative, but I politely disagree. I think this is actually one of Gregory's better works. If you are a fan of alphabet or magical coming-of-age stories, then you might enjoy this book. Also, if you've read this series, I think this gives a lot of great subtext to what we've already come to know. The next book that I read in September is the memoir I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jenette McCurdy. I did read this as a prompt for the Magical Readathon for my demonology class for an O in demonology, and that is to study implant outbursts. Read a book with an emotion in the title, that emotion being glad in this case. While I am glad that I read this book, it was an emotional roller coaster, an emotional swirly, and it really hit me pretty hard. In I'm Glad My Mom Died, actress Jenette McCurdy recounts her childhood growing up in a struggling Mormon family where she was pushed into acting at a very young age. And throughout this book, Jenette details the relationship that she had with her mother, Deb. Now, Deb was a very pushy, controlling, manipulative type of woman, and sadly, Jenette was not the only victim of this manipulation. The rest of her family was also victim to it, and sadly, acting was not all that Deb pushed Jenette into. She also pushed her into dancing classes and unhealthy relationships with her body and eating. Now, Jenette herself was a quiet and shy kid who just really enjoyed going to church and seeing her friends there. She did also enjoy dancing in her career, but did not actually enjoy the acting, but rather felt it was her duty to make her mother happy and to help support her family. Throughout this book, you see how Jenette was victimized and manipulated by the love she had for her mother. She was so eager to please her mom. She was an impressionable young child, and it's just really sad to see that even while she was very young, she knew that this behavior wasn't quite right. She really was concerned with her mother's happiness and the bout of illness that her mother faced while going through cancer, and she just really felt it was her duty to keep her mother happy and thus submitted to her mother's will, like any vulnerable child would. In this memoir, we get a really raw-edged take from Jenette about her struggles with acting, her fame, eating disorders, alcoholism, sexual encounters, and recovering from her trauma. I rated I'm Glad My Mom Died an undeniable 5 stars. This book was really great. Really heartbreaking memoir, but really important story to tell and to speak on how child actors and actors in general in Hollywood are treated and how they are manipulated into these very young working adult roles. This book made me cringe. This book made me cry. This book made me angry. This book made me want to fight people. You know I love a book that makes me want to fight people. I would recommend I'm Glad My Mom Died to memoir enthusiasts, anyone interested in the entertainment industry, and anyone looking for a sad and emotional read. This will definitely get you the tears you're looking for. Yeah, masochistic freak. Jenette recently released her first novel, and I will absolutely be picking it up. The next book that I read in September was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I did read this for the Magical Readathon. I read this for my animal studies class, being Hatchling's Read a Debut book. But before I review it or move on, just make a note that I also read this for another prompt for the Magical Readathon. I did not have enough time to read the last book, so I used a scroll of scholarly power to double my books up. So I could read one book for 2 prompts. Or I could have read one book for all the prompts if I just studied hard enough, but I really wanted to read as many books as possible. So the other class that I used this for was my Distinguished in Conjuration, and that was to conjure snacks, read a book with food on the cover. It has a nice little latte on the cover. I also read this book for the quest game, the prompt being a romantasy. Light on the romantasy, but it's there. So the book that I did not read in lieu of reading this was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. I did not get to this one. And Legends and Lattes is a steaming hot mug of cozy with a fresh warm cinnamon roll on the side. This book was so cozy, just like a hug. I loved it. We follow our main character Viv as she exchanges her mercenary sword for a barista apron when she opens up a coffee shop in a small city that has never heard of coffee. That's the majority of the story really, but let's not leave it there. This is a cozy fantasy with low stakes and warm vibes. About 95% of this book was atmosphere, and I was totally down for it. And though this book begins in the springs, new beginnings are very spring, I felt very much fall vibes from this book, given the coffee and the lattes and the cinnamon rolls and the little ramekin that bakes them. I just had all the cozy fall vibes. This book screamed fall to me. Reading about the citizens' first experiences taking that first sip of coffee, could anything be more true to my heart than cinnamon rolls and coffee? I don't think so, except for the giant dire cat that happens to wander in and out of the shop from time to time. Amity the dire cat is absolutely going to be making my list of favorite animal companions for the next round of that. But, who wouldn't want a giant saber-toothed fluff ball wandering around playing guard cat? I want one now. Keeping up with the warm and fuzzies and touching down on that romantic-y vibe, Viv and her new shop worker Tandri, who's a succubus. I forgot to mention that Viv's an orc, but the succubus Tandri and the orc Viv do slowly become acquainted as they work together in the shop, which is something that I really loved. Over time, Tandri becomes more and more invested in the shop and its owner. The romance between Viv and Tandri is something I really enjoyed because it's something that could happen to any of us. You meet someone at work, things slowly click, you work together, you care about the same things, you enjoy the same things, and things just kind of develop organically. No faded lovers, no insta-love, just normal. I really appreciated that about this book. Now there is an undertone of conflict in this book. Even though it's low stakes, that doesn't mean no stakes. In the city that Viv has opened up her coffee shop, there is a local hustler who's trying to shake her down for protection money. Even though Viv is perfectly capable of protecting the shop and herself, she does encounter this individual. Also from her past is someone she used to do jobs with as a mercenary, and that individual is snooping around looking for a stone that Viv took as a bounty for her last job as a mercenary. I rated Legends and Lattes 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be continuing on with the series. I do own the prequel already. It's Bookshops and Bones Dust, I think is that one. And I will be continuing on this series. I'm really glad I bought these special edition ones because I really enjoy them. So now I have a pretty special edition on my shelf. To me, the writing in the book was its spine. It held everything together. It's so descriptive, so atmospheric, so warm, so perfect for the tone that the author was going for. 10 out of 10 on the writing on this one. And while most of this book is warm and cozy, there was an example in this book of complete devastation, and I was nearly brought to tears. I cannot imagine how the characters would have felt in that moment. Or rather, I can, because I almost cried. I would really love to see Legends and Lattes adapted into an animated film, kind of like Shrek, like an adult animated film. I really think that would be fun, but that's just me personally. I would recommend Legends and Lattes to anyone who enjoys a good cozy romantasy book, a big old cinnamon roll fresh out of the oven, and cozy companions. Or just a book about finding your tribe, finding your people, finding your family. A lot of that in here too. Loved it. And the final book that I read in September, which is good because I'm getting tired, was Looking for Alaska by John Green, another prompt from the Magical Readathon, and that was for my Q, my qualifying in Conjuration, and that was to steal another book from someone's TBR. I stole this right off of Bo's books, TBR. Thanks, Bo. She did also like this book. I watched her video recently and she did like it. I think she may have liked it more than I did, though. Looking for Alaska by John Green is a modern contemporary coming-of-age story that takes place in an Alabama boarding school. And we follow our main character, Miles, as he quickly adjusts to life on campus. Now, when he gets to campus, he quickly meets his new roommate, Chip, aka the Colonel, who wants to show him all the walks of campus life. He also meets Alaska, who is, of course, the hottest hot girl to ever hot, and she slides kind of right into the manic pixie dream girl, in my opinion, in this book. I looked at some photos for the show, and the casting, I didn't watch the show, but the casting photos of the cast, of the characters looked so off to me. I don't know how that can ever go into my brain. I did not see Alaska the same way, but fine, all fine. Over the course of the first semester, lots of high school shenanigans are taking place. We're smoking lots of cigarettes and hanging out outside. We're drinking in the dorm rooms. Some of us are getting our first sexual experiences, just normal teenage shenaniganery. But this shenaniganery is taken too far immediately. On the first night that Miles is there is a traditional kind of hazing ritual where you are thrown into the lake in your underwear, but there is an extra step of hatred wrapped up in this, as Miles himself is wrapped up in duct tape before he's being thrown into the lake and has to squirm himself to shore before drowning. Ha 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 ha, so funny, right? Of course, over the course of the semester, Miles does fall in love with his friend Alaska. And after one night of eventful drinking in the dorm room, Alaska gets a call from her boyfriend, and while she's on the phone, she suddenly freaks out. They are drunk, they have been drinking, she is plastered, she decides she has to leave campus right now, she's getting in her car, she's going, she's gone. The boys go to sleep. First thing in the morning, the headmaster is knocking on their dorm and telling them they need to get to the gym for an assembly. They are making an announcement. Alaska has been killed in a car accident. The rest of the book follows the unraveling of what really happened to Alaska. Did Alaska have motives and self-harm? What really was going on that night? Why did she leave? Is there more to the story? Would there have been an after with Alaska? Would there have been a relationship with Alaska for Miles? There's a lot of questions that go unanswered because when somebody who's so young, or really anybody, just dies unexpectedly, these questions, you're going to have them. These answers, you may not find. This book is told in two parts, before and after, and really it drives home the themes of grief, guilt, loss, and devastation. I rated Looking for Alaska at 3 stars. I think I would have appreciated this book more if I had read it in high school versus as an adult, but still there was a lot of good in here. I was hesitant going into this book because I know John Green writes a lot of sappy, young adult, sad romance books, and that's not really my vibe, but still, it was pretty good. And I would recommend Looking for Alaska to anyone looking for a kind of coming of age story, a Y2K kind of book. There's a lot of early teenage years Y2K life in here. Or if you're just looking for a sad story, because this one will pull the rug out from under your feet and you'll land right on your ass where your feelings are, okay? This one really hurts when you're reading it. Kind of a theme this month. I read quite a few sad books, didn't I? Okay, I can't really decide my favorite book that I read this month because this is a 5-star, but damn did I love this one. I'm gonna say it was Dead to the World. This one just touches me in a special place, okay? My least favorite book, which was still a 3-star, so really wasn't bad, was Looking for Alaska. This was a very good reading month. I read a total of 7 books. I enjoyed them all to an extent. I thought they were all very good. I'm able to recommend them all to a certain people. Anyway, I thought it was very good. But what am I reading for spooky season in October? If you have not already seen my spooky season library card edition TBR game, I will leave it for the cards here-ish, wherever-ish, and you can also see that. But let's give a quick little overview of what I'll be reading. Here is my stack for the month of October. It is a total of 10 books, because it can never be 5 books. It always has to be some astronomical number that I will never hit, and yes, I'm already behind. So for my late find from my TBR game, my late find and punishment was to add a duology to my TBR. That is the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers, a Psalm for the Wild built and a prayer for the Crown Shy. This is a rather short sci-fi duology. I haven't started this one yet. Up next is the thriller A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy Willingham. This was for a thriller with an A title. The next book up was a vampire book with fire on the cover. For this, I picked Dead as a Doornail by Charlaine Harris. I've already read this one. Because of course I did. I read those books like they're nothing. Then I have a classic with a P title. I am currently reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Then I needed a werewolf book with a C title, and for that I will be reading Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. Then I needed a historical book published between 2010 and 2019. This book was published in 2015. The Witches, Salem, 1692, A History by Stacy Schiff. That's a hell of a title, my girl. You could have shortened that. Next up is a mystery by a male author, and that is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This is also my pick for Butts Wordathon for a violent word, and for the cover challenge as well with a weapon on the cover. There is a variety of weapons on the cover. And next up is a cozy book with an orange cover, and that is Chaos at the Lazy Bones Bookshop by Emmeline. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to say that. And the final book that I have to read in October is a werewolf book with food on the cover, and that is Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. Not sure if that's actually a werewolf book, but we'll call it close enough. So what are you reading for spooky season? I would love to know. Leave me a comment, like, subscribe, all the good things. It was my birthday yesterday, so you know you really want to. Give me that little birthday gift, you know what I'm saying? But I would be super stoked if you came back to join me for next month's wrap-up, as well as the end of the month. I will be doing another round of library card for a TBR game. So do like, subscribe, and come back, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!